Today, I'm in a really fucked up mood, so we're going to do this whole intro differently. It's been a couple days since that shooting in Nashville, and I'm going to talk about it. So this intro is just, I'm about to unload on this. So this intro is going to be a lot different. If you want to hear the episode, I'm letting you know it's going to be brutal. It's going to be fucking no holds barred. So if you're a squeamish motherfucker, it's time to get out of here. This and more on the Chico de Manuel Show. Let's get it. Welcome to the Chico de Manuel Show. I'm your host, Chico de Manuel, as usual. I'm not even going to sit here and pretend like I'm in a good mood. I'm not even going to sit here and pretend. Like, it's been 4 days since this shit happened, and I'm still disgusted about it. To open this bottom line segment, I'm going to respond to a post I made on Facebook regarding this shit and how somebody responded to it. So if you've been listening to my earlier podcast, you know that there's this chick on Facebook who's got an absolute hard-on for me, and every time I make a post, she's got to have some shit to say, which is okay because I do it to her, but everything she says is absolutely fucking ridiculous and asinine. I don't know in what realm of sanity she thinks she's based in, but every time she fucking cracks her knuckles to write on the keyboard and say some shit to me, you can almost be guaranteed that something absolutely ludicrous and idiotic is about to leave her mouth. So I'm going to describe what I said on my Facebook post and her response and why it's so infuriating, and the message I have to anybody else who feels this way about what she said. So my Facebook post was, if you're a trans person and you run up in a Christian school and you murder children and adults, I don't give a fuck what your pronoun is. Like, you deserve much worse than being gunned down by police. And my heart goes out to those families of those people who lost their loved ones because of this salty motherfucker. And her response was, so if a man runs up in the school and shoots him up, does he get a masculine pass? Okay, so the bottom line on that is, you're a fucking idiot. You are an absolute fucking idiot. If you think it's okay for anybody to run up in an elementary school, any building, any place, and murder people, whether it be by suicide by cop, or whether you carrying out some weird fucking ghoulish desire that you have, whatever it is, if that's your response to children being murdered, to adults being murdered in a Christian environment, you should go fuck yourself. Like, go fuck yourself harder than you've ever been actually fucked before. In my opinion, your existence is meaningless. Absolutely meaningless. Like, how is that the first thing on your mind when you hear about children getting murdered? And when you hear somebody talking about children getting murdered, like, why is that your reply? Why are you worried about equality amongst murderers? Like, do you know how fucked up in the head that you have to be worried about, well, if a man was to do it, you need to give him the same treatment. So what, we need to, like, she got the treatment she deserved. And I don't even know why I'm obeying that shit. Like, that's a motherfucking dude, but whatever. She got the treatment she deserved. I watched the body cam footage of those police officers who risked their life and was brave and heroic and went up in there and dispatched that piece of garbage. Boom, 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 couple shots. Done. Which is what the fuck they deserve. Now let me make this real clear. under no circumstance, none, no fathomable circumstance, is it okay for you to murder children, teenagers, adults, under any circumstance, unless your own life is being threatened. Is it okay for you to take the life of another? That's pretty much the ubiquitously understood exception to murder. So when you hear about children being murdered and someone ranting about it, and the only thing on your mind is, well, you better be mad across the board if a guy does it, it's insulting. It's insulting, it's inconsiderate, it's a foolish thing to even say on a public forum. Like, at the very minimum, not like this is better, but at least DM me that shit. So everybody don't gotta know how much of a fucking imbecile numbskull you are. Like, children are being murdered. If that doesn't infuriate you, we can't be friends. We can't be anything besides enemies. It's just stupid. And it's just the straw man fallacy in effect. When you hear that Facebook post I made, like, if you're a trans person running up in the school shooting people, I don't give a fuck about your pronouns. Where in that sentence do you hear me say, but if you're a man who runs up in the school, by all means, do your best, because, you're the only one that gets to do this shit. Like, it's a straw man fallacy. Your argument is against something that I never said, which basically means you're living in an alternate reality. Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on in your mind. I don't know which movie you're watching. I don't know what popcorn you eating, but you need a fucking mental overhaul. Something's wrong with you. Something's wrong with you if when you hear, hey, somebody just murdered some children. Well, would it be okay if a man did it? That's like grade A, first class, mental retardation. You need to be examined. And anybody who also feels that way, fuck you too. It's nonsense. And it's not what I want to hear when I'm upset about children being killed. Because if it was fucking your child and somebody said that shit, you would be livid. Without a doubt. It's fucking ridiculous. These stupid people just, with all these platforms, like everybody's got a platform to be fucking stupid nowadays. And everybody who's saying the shit that makes sense, that's intellectual, is being laughed at and being countered by numbskulls. Like, how did we get here? Seriously. Man. I don't even want to rant no more about this bitch. Bottom line, this bitch is fucking dumb. She's lost all credibility if she had any. And anybody who worried about equality over murdering children needs to be arrested and thrown in prison for the rest of their fucking life. Because there's no way you can have that attitude and not be a menace to society. Fucking stupid. Let's move on, man. All right, man, here we go. Third base topic. I done calmed down a little bit. This shit was infuriating. I have a very, I don't even have a tolerance for stupidity. Like, if you call it a tolerance, that's not appropriately describing it. Like, I have a psychotic hatred for stupidity. Fuck. Anywho, third place topic. While we on the topic of this trans shit, it's got me wondering, does anybody care about women? Like, seriously? Like, they got women's rights and women's wellness and all this shit, but what's going on in this country right now? Do people really care about women? Because in my opinion, it doesn't seem like it. Seems like people hate women. Seems like people want to eradicate women, and they want to call everything that's not a woman a woman. Now, I understand, gender dysphoria, whatnot. Some people believe they're born in the wrong body, and I've thought about that, and it brings me to this question. When a man says he's a woman trapped in a man's body, that leads me to some certain questions. Now, like, first of all, if you've never been a woman, how do you know what it's like to be one? If you've never actually been a woman, how do you know that one is trapped in your body? You have male genitals, you have male reproductive organs, you have a male physical body structure. You do things that biologically and historically are inherent, are associated with men. So for you to say you're a woman trapped in a man's body is like a duck saying, I'm an eagle trapped in a duck's body. No duck has ever said that, as far as I know, and like no eagle has ever felt like a duck. They've always been two different things as far back as, it's ever been recorded. So like, what the fuck? If you're gonna say you're a woman trapped in a man's body, it's like, how do you know that? How do you know that you're something else trapped in something else if you've never been that thing that's trapped in you? It doesn't make sense. Now, all this can be addressed and handled and not such a big fucking deal if we don't let these things get out of hand. Like if we don't let these thoughts and ideas begin to corrupt and poison civilization in the way that it has. Now, I remember when this whole LGBTQ thing first started coming out, like when it was first something that was being dangled in your face. Like, it wasn't all this, it was the gay people, like gays and lesbians were trying to be included, you know? Like, people wanted to go out and fucking like be able to go to restaurants and be able to go to the movie theater and wanted to do all of this shit without being judged or without being, you know, they wanted to get married and all that shit, which, I mean, I've never had a problem with that. Like, if you find happiness in a woman as a woman, if you find happiness in a man as a man, more power to you. You know, there's nothing in life saying that you can't find happiness in the same sex. I understand people who are traditional or have traditional values, they may be slow to be receptive of that, or they may not fundamentally understand it because of their worldview. So it's like, I get it if everybody doesn't understand it, but things that don't affect them in any way, financially, emotionally, spiritually, don't need to be understood. Okay? So I understand people's apprehension to it, but if it doesn't really bother you in any way, you just don't like seeing it or hearing about it, that's kind of your problem. But when you got these trans people talking about wanting to invade women's sports, wanting to use women's restrooms and locker rooms, entering women's spaces, like when I look at somebody entering your space, that's essentially them trying to like wipe you out. Like if this is the territory which you own and which you operate and which you survive and live in, and I'm trying to invade that space, it's not to share it, it's to conquer it. It's to take it over, to make it mine. So if for 1 second you think that acquiescence to these extremely bizarre and uncanny ass demands is going to result in something that benefits women, you're certifiable. Seriously. Like, there are women actually, even especially with that swimmer girl, that Leah Thomas girl that dominated all those women in the swimming events. Those women were saying if they were to even speak out against it, like any dream they had of being a professional swimmer, a competitive swimmer, would have been done. Nobody was even entertaining the notion that she shouldn't be there. And if you said, and when they said something about it, they had to have their identity concealed for the fear of retaliation. Now it's like, there's so many examples of this shit happening when you have these men who are women, who identify as women, entering women's sports and dominating them in swimming, in weightlifting, and fucking MMA. And you got these same people who will turn around and say, oh, well, it's just an anomaly. It's just a fringe. You're like, no, it's not. It's countless examples of it. And what there aren't countless examples of is trans men, which is women who think they're men and want to be men, dominating men's sports. You don't see not one trans woman being dominant in any form of male sports. Not one. So it's like, this thing doesn't work both ways. This thing doesn't, there's no reciprocation here. There's so much evidence, so much data pointing to this, and you've got actual women out here defending this shit. I shouldn't even really need to say actual women. This whole cis woman shit. I'm not with that cis shit. As far as I'm concerned, that's sissy shit. Okay? There is no such thing as a cis woman. I am not a cis man. There's women and men. You've got women defending this nonsense, defending this non-binary horse shit. Like, they're defending it. So it's like you're paving the way for women to get trampled on. This is not going to end well for women. When you allow anybody who just raises their hand or rolls the dice to just say they're a woman and we have to respect that, is ludicrous. Because when people hear that, they're going to say, well, I want to be a crystal ball. I want to be a tulip. I want to be a lawnmower. So what the fuck? I need to respect you as a lawnmower? So you mean to tell me I need to prime you up, pour gas down your fucking throat, and watch you cut my lawn because that's what you want to be called? Like, you get to be called what you want to be called, but like that's in the sense of like a name. Like, if this is the name I give you, if this is the name I want to be called, then that's like, okay, I can get with that. I can understand that. But the gender you want to be called, the sex you want to be called, it's not optional. And anybody who thinks it is against women. You're anti-woman, it's problematic, and you need to have your mouth sewn shut if you're gonna have an opinion on this shit. It ain't just about traditional values or like what we've always done. It's about reality and common fucking sense and what's real and what's not. If you give a fuck about women, if you sincerely do, if you care about women like you'll say you do, then you have no choice but to speak out against this. It's immoral, it's cruel, it's wrong, it's stupid. It makes no sense. And it's depreciating society rapidly. Like, this shit is crumbling right in front of our faces. And you got motherfuckers greenlighting it every day. Oh, dude, more crumbling, more damage, more. What? Get fucking real, man. Men are men, women are women, and people who are confused about that reality are people who are confused about that reality. And if you can be confused about it quietly or be confused about it and receive help so you can reach a finality on this shit, more power to you. That won't affect society the way this other shit is. But if you're a man who really thinks he's a woman and you want to use women's locker room and use women's restroom and get naked and go into women's prisons and like what's the point? Like, you're gonna sexually assault women. What's the other point of there? I can't think of another reason to do that shit. It's not so you can spill the tea and joke about your fucking period and your cramps and all that shit. It's not real. It doesn't happen. We need to protect our women. Women have inherent value. Women are sacred. Women should be valued. Women should be taken care of. And we've been doing it for all this time, and in the past 10, 15 years, now we're deciding that's a problem. Fuck that. It's not a problem. We need to protect women. And if you don't want to protect women, you need to be isolated. You need to be somewhere else in society where your opinion doesn't fucking count or matter. And that's just that. Moving on. Second place topic, man. All right, y'all. Make a little mic adjustment here. All right. Second base. If you haven't noticed, been very, very frustrated, very negatively emotional in these episodes. So I was blessed with a little bit of medication to help get me through this. And by medication, I mean Jewish marijuana, some marijuana. So I'm going to be consuming that throughout, see if it works. Second base topic. I think a good title to sum it up is No More Mr. Nice Guy. Hold on, I'm going to grab some water. Yeah, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Like, I think a lot of these problems, and when I say problems, I don't use that term lightly. Like, a lot of these problems, a lot of these jock itches, a lot of these fucking scrotal infections that's making their opinions known and making their feelings heard, you know, is a lot of the reason why we in this fucking state of just reverse progression. Like, we're reverting back to we're not even reverting. We were on a path with a clear destination, and for whatever reason, we just decided to take a left turn off that path, off road, into dirt, glass, debris, and everything that's anathema to forward progress. And I believe a big part of that problem is due to all this fucking acquiescence, all this giving in, all this making people heard when the consequences of giving in to their squeamish desires is catastrophic at worst. Like, if that's it, like, especially with this whole gender ideology. Gender ideology is It's the freedom without responsibility. It's the one ideology that's the most untenable, that has the most traction. And if somebody would stand up to these motherfuckers and let them know straight up that, like, if you want to obey those rules in your fantasy world, if you want to think you're a woman, but you only want you to think you're a woman and not anybody else, or if you're a woman who thinks they're a man and you want to believe that and don't force us to believe that, or to try to force us to believe that, I don't think there would be an issue. If you want to walk around and wear makeup and fucking put a red nose on and like wear one left shoe as a tap shoe and the other shoe as a clown shoe, and you want to wear pants that have sleeves for your arms or whatever kind of weird shit you want to do, it's totally fine. That's a part of the freedom of being an American. Like, you can do that shit. What you don't get to do is make me call you something other than a clown when everything you do indicates clownhood. I think, who was I listening to that said this? I think it was Tom Segura. It was one of his stand-up specials. And he said, like, you have the right to complain. You have the right to be upset. You have the right to be offended when something happens. I'm paraphrasing. When something happens that's not what you want, when things don't go your way, when you feel like you've been slighted or you've been wronged, like, you've got the right to be upset. You've got the right to complain about that, you know? You have words, you have sentences, you have your own individual ideas, so yeah, you can do that. Now, what you don't have the right to do is expect anyone to give a flying fuck. You don't have the right to expect me to care about every little whim that your pea-brain little mind can conceive, especially when it comes to ideas that are empirically and visibly destructive, transgressive, and just something that could be kept on the fringe or kept into particular areas of society without becoming a social contagion. This has become a social contagion. These people are narcissists. They only think about themselves. They only care about themselves. They are hedonistic to a fault. They think that the only thing that matters to them, and it's the only thing that should matter to you. And the only thing that matters to them is that every desire that they experience be gratified within an instant. They don't give a damn about your family. They don't give a damn about you. They don't give a damn about your future. They just give a fuck about their needs being met, their desires being affirmed, this affirmation shit. It's about time somebody comes along and just say, you know what? Fuck that shit. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. And it's not happening because we said it's not happening. I'm gonna fuck how big of a movement you got. If you don't like it, move into the middle of the goddamn ocean and build your own country where that shit's acceptable. See how long it lasts. But it's not going down that way. And it's not going down that way because those views, opinions, ideologies, and what forth are destructive. And you're destroying everything that all our predecessors, all our ancestors worked so hard to build. Just so you can run around, dress as a woman, as a man, or dress as a man, as a woman, and try to just draw us into your fantasy world. These ideas are untenable for a reason. The biggest reason is because they can't stand up to any kind of scrutiny. Once these ideas are challenged, once these ideas are met with criticism, they crumble, they vanish, they just collapse like a house of cards. If you have an idea, but you can't defend that idea against criticism, then the idea is essentially useless. The idea doesn't benefit us. As a matter of fact, it's got people trying to push sexuality and transgender onto children. Children, the only humans with complete innocence. They have yet to be poisoned with any idea that's associated with the future. They haven't become adults yet. They haven't committed sins that they can't look back on, which is an inevitable part of the human experience. I mean, Christians say it all the time. We all are sinners. Everyone's a sinner. You know, no one's a saint. Everyone's a sinner. Which I believe is true. You know, even though I don't really care for sin, I don't really buy into all that. I digress. Another discussion. The bigger problem is not just that this is allowed. The bigger problem is that every idea that these people have, that is associated with this shit, it's met with kindness and understanding. People entertain this shit. And it's ridiculous. The problem is everyone's trying to be nice to everybody all the time. Everybody's got to be diverse. Everybody's got to be inclusive. Everybody's got to welcome everybody. You got to talk about all the other races. You can't just have a job with just certain people of a certain race working there. You got to throw in a random Asian guy because there's no Asian guys. I walk around your place and I don't see Asian guys, so I feel like it's a problem. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with diversity, but I don't think it's inherently necessary either. Diversity is not as important as efficiency, as capability, as getting shit done. These motherfuckers will wipe out a whole cabinet of government with competent people just to put in motherfuckers that just look different. That's stupid. And somebody needs to tell these people that it's stupid and enforce rules like it's stupid, whether they have a pussy-ass objection or not. Because the one inherent quality of being nice, the one inherent drawback of being nice is being taken advantage of. And we are being taken advantage of at the expense of your children, at the expense of you, at the expense of women. And it's happening right in front of our eyes. So when I get to this first base topic, which I'm about to do in a second, I'm gonna address. It's upsetting to even think about. It's just deeply upsetting. But we're gonna talk about the real problem, and we're gonna stretch off on this nice guy thing, like the real problem. We're gonna expand on this nice guy idea, but I'm not nice guy. I'm coming at that shit full force. Let's get to it. All right. If you made it this far, you must have ice in your veins, nerves of steel, or you must be deaf. In which case, how do you know you've made it this far? So, congratulations, I guess, but this shit should, everybody should have made it this far. Like, if you got a fucking brain stem, if you consume oxygen and you have a pulse, you should be hit with this shit. But in reference to that school shooting in Nashville, some people was responding, trans people, the LGBTQIA, JDPPFFDDM community, they was responding, but not in a way that I would have expected them to respond, or I think most reasonable people would have expected them to respond. And they say that right-wing fear-mongering and coverage of that incident, which was committed by a member of that community, the LGBTQIA LMFFTDJJ 557826 people, them, that this now, they're targeted by this somehow. Like, they're the ones that are suffering, even though they're still alive. They making TikToks. They're just doing shit. They haven't been gunned down by a stranger just for trying to get an education and be a child. They weren't gunned down for that. They weren't ruthlessly murdered by a trans person. I don't remember. They keep calling them a her. So, I'm assuming it's a trans woman. But, so for one, they're talking about how even though this person, well, first let's talk about why they say they're the victims here. They say they're the victims because people might lash out and attack trans people because the person who committed this crime was a trans person. So even though they were clearly not safe before that happened, now they're even more not safe. This puts them at risk. When it's like, not like, how can I say duh without it being misinterpreted? Like, this puts you at risk not because people will just lash out on a random trans person as a retaliation to what just happened. Like, that's not, no. You're associated because this is one of your guys. He had a whole manifesto, which they haven't released, but this is one of your people. This is from the LGBTQIA plus. This is one of your representatives. So if people associate you with it, there's a reason for that. Black comedians get to get up on stage for years and make jokes about being in courtrooms or standing next to white people and ending up in handcuffs and, police brutality and all this shit and picking cotton and shit. They get to make jokes about that shit because it's associated with black people from some perspective. Not to say everyone thinks of black people like that, but there's enough evidence in history to make the association without it being something that could be determined as false or just completely frivolous. Just like if I say, associate having a good credit score with being white and owning shit. It's like, it's because they do. This is what white people do, regardless of what others do. So if white people do this and you're associated with it, if you've got trans people running up in schools, shooting children, shooting staff members, why does that not get to be associated with you? So if there is some kind of risk, if you are some kind of victim, y'all need to talk to y'all peoples. Don't be mad at other people who associate the type of person you are with the ethnic group or with whatever group you identify with. How many black men have been lied on because they did some shit and they're just like, oh, some black guy did it. And that shit had merit because to some degree, black people are associated with crime of a certain type. We ain't doing like mafia shit. But if it's robbing niggas, having shootouts and gang banging and all that shit, yeah, that's us. So, if that's a member of y'all community doing that shit, you gonna get associated with them. And if you at a risk because of it, shit, make them stop. Simple as that. Now, on to the tidbit that's even more fucking infuriating and more disgusting. You got idiots on TikTok babbling about how even though he committed a horrific act and yada, 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 or she committed a horrific act, misgendering this vile, just rancid, disgusting fucking defect of a human being, we shouldn't be misgendering them. Like, who in their right mind with any degree of ability to feel emotions and feel emotions relevant to active life situations? If you can feel feelings, who the fuck is gonna care about that shit when the person who did something that makes people associate that behavior, murder, with that community, who the fuck gives a fuck about a pronoun? You just committed one of the most heinous acts imaginable. But I still gotta refer to you some type of way? If I was the cop that got to arrest you, if they didn't get murked and they actually got to be arrested, the cops could beat that motherfucker to within an inch of their life and I would turn a blind eye to it. I would not care. That's what happens to people who get the fucking death penalty. Like, I don't see you crying out and talking all this shit when they get murdered. How in the fuck are you being targeted? The way I see it, y'all the ones doing the targeting. I don't give a damn if it's just one incident, if it's 5 incidents. Just checked the website a couple of days ago. It's been 130, I think, people killed from gun violence. I think it says 76 people. Don't quote me on that, but it's something close to that. It's like either 76 people dead on 130 incidents or the other way around. Either way, that's to this point in this year. We about to go into April. Now, I can't sit here and break down all the percentage of, how much of it was trans. This is just the latest one. I just really do not I'm willing to respect that shit. If this gendering thing is supposed to be a gesture of respect, if it's supposed to be about respect, then I can do that for the ones that I respect. But however, any reasonable person, anybody that uses their mind to think, knows not just to respect people because you exist. There's like a baseline level of respect. Let's say I got a respect that's judged on a scale of 1 to 100. For the average person, I have about a 30 respect. It's about a 30. For like a good friend, somebody I've known for a little while, that 30 jumps to about like a 60. For people I've known for like at least a decade or longer or something like that, that's in the 90s. That's how my respect goes for people. So long as we get along, we got some common interests, and there's something about the person that's respectable, that's not able to be known prior to meeting someone. I don't just respect everybody. And I especially don't respect fucking murderers of children. Anything violating children. Dead. Fuck them. Pedophiles, fuck them. Molesting, fuck them. School shooters, fuck them. Fuck them dead. Give a fuck whether you a he, she, they, them, z, zer, zay. Fuck off. Your pronouns to me is dead. Deceased. Good riddance. Fuck your gender. Scum. That's what I mean. Too many people got platforms. Too many people got room to say what the fuck they want to, when in reality, they shouldn't be talking at all. Not on the basis that you don't have a voice and you don't have the right to speak, but your little millimeter by millimeter sized brain has about a 0% chance of coming up with a sentence that's cogent, useful, helpful, relevant. This shit is goofy now. This shit is just goofy. At a point in time, it meant something. But now it's goofy. I just heard about a push to knock the TQ off the LGBTQ. Because like I said, in the beginning, it was about the LGB. You can even throw the T in there too. I don't know about the Q. Let's say LGBT. But now, it's starting to be all about the T and the Q in a manner that's not positive. Now I don't give a fuck if I have cross-dressed. I don't give a fuck. I've not done that shit in front of any children. I'm not walked around here actually believing I'm a female or a woman. Can tell you what a woman is. And I'm not actively telling anybody in society they need to do what the fuck I'm doing. Don't do nothing you seen me do just because you seen me do it. If you did, I didn't tell you to. You a fucking follower. If you got a problem with what I do, have a problem with it. But that's the difference between me doing it and these other motherfuckers. You'll never see me in no drag queen hour, children's hour. You'll never see me prancing about schools. Or like Lil Nas X getting all these children to listen to him, saying that he's out to get children as his target audience. And then make music videos where he giving the devil a lap dance and sliding down poles and shit. What the fuck? Shit's weird for adults. So that shit is like, multiply that by like fucking 10 for children. It's a time and a place for everything. But the over-sexualization of America, the hypersexualization and the just the cruel, just disgusting, fucking unfathomably horrifying attitudes and treatment, and just this obsession with children, obsession with corrupting children. It's, man, it just wasn't supposed to be this. Because before I was anything, or before I was certain I was anything, I was behind that shit because it seemed wholesome. Motherfuckers wasn't worried about you, like they just wanted to be accepted. It wasn't about dangling it in your face and reminding you every second of every minute of every hour, like that they're here and you got to see us. It's like that was the appropriate part to it. But now it seems as though like that attention has spiraled out of control. And not all members of the LGBTQ community agree with some of the radical ideas that's being put forward. It's not everybody. But at this point, it's indiscernible. Like, nobody's going to walk around polling you every time we have this discussion to make sure you're one of the ones that don't feel that way. That's just too much discernment for anybody who's got a preconceived notion regarding a race. Like, if you automatically feel like black people just gonna rob you, you'll see a motherfucker walking through and ain't even think about you when you lock your car doors. You know, you're gonna, like, that's just how it works. I think now that I'm just getting older, said it many times, I'm 31. I'm starting to finally align with some morality in my life, finally starting to have some values, starting to care about things other than myself, my own current desires, my instant gratification. It's not easy at all. But for that reason specifically is why I take that path. Because a life of ease and comfort and a cavalier attitude towards it, that shit breeds nothing worthwhile. A life focused on ease and instant gratification is going to leave you miserable. And how do you know that? You don't know me. You don't know my life. Well, check this out. Would you agree that anything you're in pursuit of, anything that you're in pursuit of compulsively, indicates that you don't currently have it? Or if you have it, you're currently not using it. If you are always in pursuit of happiness and pleasure, then that kind of insists that you don't have it. Because if you had it, why the hell would you be in search of it? And this isn't even an original observation, but it's like, it rings so true. Life is not about fulfilling pleasure. Life is not about just you. You have to be important to yourself. And then, once you're important to yourself, you have to find ways to get other people to learn that they are important and that they have a duty and that they have a role. And for every one of them that doesn't fulfill that duty and fulfill that role, you are contributing to the detriment of something bigger than yourself that you cannot conceptualize or will not conceptualize. Like, you don't get to be you, live this life, experience shit for free. But these motherfuckers think they do. And they so hell-bent on forcing you to accept them and affirm them. That shit like this happens. Children get killed, attitudes get cemented, and problems don't get solved. My heart goes out, my heart and prayers goes out to those family members of those people who, saw their loved one go to work and didn't know that they was never going to see him again. To those families that's just now -1, just broken, left to pick up the pieces of what some selfish son of a bitch inflicted upon them. And instead of bringing us together as a people to prevent this shit from happening, motherfuckers want to divide us and use just sadistic, insidious language just to sow pain and hurt because they can't sort through their own. So the next time you hear this shit, you hear these motherfuckers talking about, non-binary this and like pronoun that or whatever, just know every single one of them is not trying to shove it down your throat. Some of them are just trying to live their lives. Some of them don't need your affirmation if what they believe is true to them. They don't need to be on every business and on every athletic organization or on every cup of milk or on every fucking children's network. You could do it, but it's just not necessary. You got to remember, all of them ain't radical. And I never for 1 second believed that this was the long-term agenda for everybody in that community, everybody that lives that life. There are some trans people out there who deserve respect, who have integrity, who would never do such a thing that's going to get misjudged because of these radical fuckers. And that's unfair. But you need to know, next time you look at them, next time you look at anybody, when they say don't judge a book by its cover, you're going to do it. You're going to judge the book by its cover because it makes sense to do so. But if you're going to judge a book by its cover, that means you got to read the first chapter. You got to read the first chapter if you're going to judge the book by the cover. Otherwise, you don't know shit. And you took some type of thinking error shortcut to compensate for your inability to grasp knowledge that you do not have yet. And you did it wrong. But at the end of the day, this shit got to stop. And by this shit, I just mean all the nonsense that's being validated. Like, we can't be nice to everybody. Being nice to everybody don't work. Never's worked. You look back in time. Anybody that's ever conquered or got what they wanted, was they fucking nice? Was it nice to just come through your village and kill all your men and rape all your women and colonize and conquer? What's nice about that? But shit, they ate. Being nice is not always a plausible game plan. Sometimes you got to shake some shit up and make some noise if you want to get what you want. Because ain't nobody just finna give it to you. And they might have that attitude, but let me tell you, the people who you trying to make give it to you is growing in numbers. And that's how battles is lost. When you outnumbered, overpowered, and people is tired of this shit, and the jig is up, then what? Then what? I'm eager to find out. That being said, I'm gonna put a wrap to this shit. Appreciate all my listeners. Once again, my hearts go out to the people suffering because of that tragic event that happened on Monday, 3 days ago. And shit, Just keep tuning in with me. Like, support the message. Support what's right. Y'all know what's right from wrong. You know what's goofy and what's not goofy and what's helpful and what's not helpful and what's relevant and what's not relevant. Stop giving energy to the bullshit. Open your eyes and stay open-minded and just learn critical thinking. Because we need it right about now. But I'm through, y'all. Y'all have a good one. Easter coming up. Month of April. Showers bring May flowers. We're going to have some fun shit going. We're going to keep this shit popping. And, you know, every day is growth. I'm out of here.